this is Sherry Veronica. We're hearing that his full name is Kemar Pile-Martin. They call him Pile. Remember, they were saying R.I.P. Pile. His name is Kemar Pile-Martin. It's hyphenated, Pile-Martin, hyphenated. And he's related to Vonda Pile. That is his nephew. This is Vonda Pile's nephew. Now, his aunt was recently in the news. You remember she was talking about the police being around her house and how there were guys underneath her cellar, and the police, it was a good thing that they didn't run, because you never would have known what would have happened. And she was carrying on social media. She put this particular video on Facebook, and within that video, she identified herself as Heather Pile, and her son, Adio, A-D-I-O, he was killed earlier this year. So there's death in that family. Vonda Pile was recently stricken off the roll for attorneys. A year or so ago, her brother was killed. There's a lot of tragedies surrounding this family. Now let's get back to Kimar, okay? They're saying that they're actually in shock because the person that spoke to me went to school with Kimar, and they cannot get it, they cannot wrap their head around what has happened to him. It was not in the news. Usually the news would say that someone was found dead and the police are not looking for any suspects because, it was a self-inflicted kind of thing. But they're saying, I didn't see it. There was no mention of a death. And they also, meaning the newspapers, would say that they don't want it to be a copycat situation by, talking too much about it. But they talk a lot about other things that is not copycatted. The good stuff is not copycatted, but they have to worry that something like this may be something that people would, do because, what is in the news. No, Bajans don't move that way. You don't move that way. But anyhow, he's 35 years old. I don't know if I said that before. And they're saying that he was a ZR driver and he was a regular person. Oh, like how he's seen here smiling, he was just a regular person. So to hear that he fell into that deep dark hole, and the person who was talking to me, they don't even want to ask, well, how did it happen? They don't even want to ask. They don't want to know. They do not want to know what method. They just don't want to know. They just do not want to know. But the Pile, P-I-L-E, family, the Pile family, I understand that everyone wants to live. That is understood. Everyone wants to live. But when you have tragedy that is stitched to the cloth that you are made of, okay? It's just like a tragic thread that winds its way through the fabric of who you are. You're gonna have to make some changes if you can. If you can. People do not usually get better. They peak, whatever they're doing, they peak and then it degrades after that. Yeah, that's exactly the way I see life. Everyone peaks. You get to the best of whatever you're going to be. If you're going to be a good person, if you're going to be very successful, if you're going to be a criminal, whatever it is, there's a peak that you reach, and you don't get any better. You're not going to change. You're not getting any better. And from that vantage point, it is downward spiral from there. You get worse. If there's a change, it's a change for the worse because you're getting older. Your reflexes are not as quick as they were. It goes downhill. It goes downhill. You don't need to romance nothing. So Kemar Pile-Martin, he fell into a hole, a dark hole. Was it a relationship? Was it centered around the relationship? Was it money? Some people just cannot survive in this world if money is stolen from them, or if money that was supposed to get to them didn't get to them. It's a hard sell for some people, a hard sell to actually be poverty stricken, not poor per se, but poverty to the poverty level where you cannot even eat, you do not have a house, you cannot put gas in your car, in fact you don't have a car. So some people fall into a deep dark space, and the result could be like, for instance, what happened to Kimar Pile-Martin, 35 years old. And I actually asked where he lived and if he had children, and the person went silent. They went silent on me. It was like silent. And the reason I'm saying that they went silent was because I reblogged it. I said, well, answer this question. Answer this question. I put them back up. I put the same questions back up, and that was a no. That was a no. That was a no. I ghosted after that. But Kemar Pile-Martin, 35 years old. 35 years old. Not sure if he has kids. People are saying, well, the person is saying that he was just well-fed. That's the words I use, because I asked if he was drawn up, if he was losing weight. No, he was just a regular person walking around the streets of Barbados, and then the next day you heard he was no more. And it's quite shocking. And one of his names, not last name, but one of his names happened to be Pile. He's the nephew, allegedly, of Vanda Pile. And all the troubles and tribulations she has been through, self-inflicted or not, you don't know. But then again, if she's an ex-con, so you have to say because she was tried by her peers and found guilty, of being dishonest and lied and everything else that goes along with that. So you kind of do know, but it's a family that has a dark cloud over it. It's just a dark cloud. And I said it before, everyone wants to live. Everyone peaks at what they're ever going to be. So the Pile family, with their youngsters, if they're having babies, maybe they should recommend that family don't have babies. Maybe they should recommend to the younger ones who are still able to do that. Maybe you should not have babies. Maybe they can change the Pile name. Maybe get rid of that particular name, and they have to chart. They will have to chart. They have to be serious. They have to want it and be serious, and they have to chart a new life for themselves. They cannot get pregnant for a Barbadian. You cannot just have a Barbadian baby. You have to cross the waters and try another race, a Korean, white, Mexico, whatever, but those are black too. But just you have to do something different to have a different sort of experience, a different type of bloodline, different type of everything, food, different type of expression. You're gonna have to reimagine yourselves. You're gonna have to remake yourselves. You are going to have to want it so badly that you go to whatever lengths you need to go to remake yourselves, okay? Because as you stand now in that space, in this time, there's a cloud. There's a dark cloud over you, okay? So this is for Kemar Pile-Martin. I guess the next time you will see him is in the obituaries, and they're not gonna say anything there. But people are so shocked, they don't want to ask questions. They don't even want to ask questions. And like they said, and like I've said, you didn't see it in the news. Not even in the news. Well, was he? told me, was he in the news? Yeah, that's it. This is Sherry Veronica.
Help me spread the word about Naked Departure via social media. Subscribe and share to show support and love for our channels.